Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is David Warburton. As ever, I'm joined by my colleagues Ian Storey and James Kendall, but this week we have a very special guest, a powerhouse in the industry, Heather Staff from the Street Group. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem at all.
Someone's after a discount.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to adjust my direct debit accordingly. So we're going to go through loads of stuff with Heather today. It's going to be a great podcast, I'm sure. But first of all, lads, how's your week been? We're going to go to you, Ian Storey.
Good morning, everyone. Week's been very good. Things continue to be very good. So we've had, so far this week, 4 really good listings, two for me, 2 for Phil. I got one on Monday morning. Now, normally, Monday mornings I keep free for client feedback and client updates. So I came in on Sunday to do that because the people who had this £1.5 million house to sell had viewed one that we've got £1 million the week before, and they were going away on holiday. And I thought, I've got to get in and see them because they really want this one we've got £1 million. Went to see them at 8:30 Monday morning, signed them up on the Val, agreed a figure for the one they want to buy off us near Tarpley. So it was a really good start to the week. Don't normally do that, but you know when you just get a sniff that you think something's sort of on the boil. So that was a really good start to the week. Then a couple of other good listings as well, 950 a mil, 500, a couple of those are Phil's. And then some good sales agreed. I think we've sold our current highest price listing at 2.85. We did a second viewing there with the seller yesterday. It's an equestrian house, really lovely home. And the second viewed it, seemed really keen. So fingers crossed that will be a superb end to the week. But overall, good. You know, the market is really good. We're still surrounded by agents quoting low fees, overvaluing, agents who are telling people all the time that the market above $1 million is slow, which is bollocks. And ever was it thus. But really, all good, chaps, all good. How about you, JK?
Yeah, so it was a pretty good week for us. We exchanged on our highest ever value house in the last week. Not sure if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but it was a £3.5 million house. May have mentioned it once or twice. So that exchange and completes next week. We're doing okay for sales. We've only done 7 this month, but obviously average fee around 10k, so it's not disastrous. Got a sale of a barn conversion that we're working on at the moment. Who want to buy one through us at about 1.3? That's 950. Buying one at 1.3, so could turn an average month into a really good one. Listings are good. We've got quite a lot coming on. We've got another barn actually at 1.25. Yeah, I know. I'm taking the barn king, aren't I? I'm talking to the barn king here. But yeah, a couple of challenges that I won't go too deep into this week, but things that issues that have arisen because of poor solicitors. And poor choices. I think there's been a lot of blame placed in the wrong places for poor decisions that other people have made. And this week for me, it's been a challenge morally to deal with a few bits and pieces where I've probably could have just made a problem go away by paying it away, but I decided that I'd rather do what's right rather than just pay for it to go away. So we'll probably update on that later on. But no, all around positive. Hopefully taking on a new sales progressor soon. Interviewed a couple of people this week. We're going to move Sandra into kind of what I call the Vicky role now. Like Ian's got at his place. So stylist, kind of chief happiness officer. So yeah, that's kind of in the works. But no, all good all round. Mr. Warburton, how about you?
Yeah, pretty good. We had a faller last night, which was annoying, but I think that's just a small bump in the road. We've had a really good month, and I'm pleased that we've pretty much got all our business done before the stamp duty chaos. So most of our exchanges have gone. We really prepped that and let people know in advance that they need to be way ahead of the game if they were going to beat the deadline, and we seem to have got pretty much all of them over the line, and 1 or 2 stragglers, but it's not going to be affected at all. So that's good and really encouraging because I think it's worried quite a few agents that with it being busy. Instructions are great and valuations are great. And to be quite honest, even though we've had 2 fallers this month, we've we've topped up with plenty of sales. So pipeline's the best it's been. So yeah, we're in a good position. And told you lads last night, I've just signed a lease on a new office.
Yeah,
which is
congratulations,
great
mate.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been looking for an office for ages. It's a bigger space. It is no street HQ, Heather, but it's not bad. And I was inspired
Whereabouts
by
is
that.
it, Dave?
It's over in Edgerton, in Bolton,
Okay, nice.
which is near where I live. And go on, Ian, go on.
Used to be the Phoenix nightclub. Is that what it was?
They're both looking at me. Can't wait to speak.
Get that cooker on.
Yeah, Ian's obviously down his roots in Blackpool, and he's now in Tarple. He thinks he's all posh. Yes, it's in Bolton.
Is it the Berry Borough?
It's not the Berry Borough. It is in Bolton, and it's a nice affluent part of Bolton. And I'm looking forward to getting us moved over to there in the summer.
Yeah, it's brilliant, mate. Well done.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Right, let's move on. Heather, how's your week been?
It's been brilliant, actually. Really good week. We've had some agents visiting Street HQ, which is happening more and more now, which is great. And yeah, vibe from the market is generally positive from agents, which is obviously good for us. So excellent week so far.
Good. Right, okay. Well, as you know, we've got Heather on the podcast. We've got loads of stuff to go through, I think, and I'm sure it'll go off on a tangent as well, like it always does. But Heather, I suppose you've done this so many times. I think everybody knows who you are by now. But give us a brief background on you, and then and obviously where you're at with Street at the moment. That'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So my background is actually really boring. I was a chartered accountant for 10 years for KPMG, but my entire family were estate agents / are still estate agents. So my mum set up her first estate agency when she was 24, when she was living in London. And then when they moved back up to Manchester, her and my dad set up an estate agency. Then they got divorced and had competing estate agencies, which is probably a story for a different time. Auntie and uncle were estate agents. So yeah, well and truly in the blood. So I grew up in the industry, as obviously did my brothers. And one of my brothers is my co-founder. So it was Tom. He's an engineer, as in a software engineer. He spent some time in my dad's business about 10 years ago, ended up spending 3 years there, and essentially just saw some space for tech to help enormously with what my dad's business was doing back at the time very manually. So he built Spectre version 1. He showed me that Christmas what he'd built, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing. And I was like, that's just going to explode. So I quit my job at KPMG, joined him. And then very early on, really, we really wanted to tackle the sort of problem that we saw, which was the actual software that agents were using on a day-to-day basis, which most agents will refer to as a CRM. And so we started building Street, which was an enormous undertaking, but I'm glad we did now, because obviously it's gone from strength to strength. So that's a very short history of Street and Spectre, basically.
How long was it in the making, Heather? Street?
About 6 years it's taken to get to where we are now. But when we built Spectre, it was one of one at the time. It was the only prospecting tool on the market, and it did very, very well. But we started, knocking on the doors of CRMs and saying, can we integrate? And we just got told, no, we don't have an open API. And it's like, okay, well, will you have one? No, we have no plans to have an open API. And we were sort of looking at the space from at the time, I guess, a small proptech company's outsider point of view. And we were looking at all the investor money that was going into our industry. And it was all going in the portal sphere, which is fine. That makes sense. And then it was going in the online agent, arena. And if you go back, 6, 7, 8 years ago, there was this prevailing thought that estate agents were going to go the same way as travel agents, and online agents were the future. And Tom and I just massively disagreed with that thinking. And our sort of big bet at the time was that is not going to be the case, that there will be a small proportion of people that will do that, but the vast majority will want an experienced, knowledgeable estate agent to hold a hand through that process.
I wish I'd spoken to you in 2016.
Hashtag me too.
I only waited 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were just looking at it thinking, okay, well, who's building the good tech for those, that 95% of agents? And in our opinion, no one was. So we thought, what, if we can if we genuinely think we can build something 10 times better than anything else on the market, we should do it. And we did. So we started. But yeah, as you know, Street is a big comprehensive bit of kit. So sales, lettings, property management, client accounting. So it has been an expensive build, but we're there now.
Great. I mean, just going back, actually, I remember that exact time really, because I bet the other way, Heather. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, it cost a lot of money. Over a 2 or 3 year period. But it was what you saw. Obviously, Purple Bricks were the main player then, weren't they? And then you had Yopa and what was the Easy Move one that were coming out. You could see all these online agents jumping in, and there was quite a lot of investors getting involved trying to make the same thing work. And ultimately, it was the app that was the value, I suppose, in a way, because it was this 24/7 thing. But then what I didn't really think about was that people like you would come along with other offerings that enabled smaller independents to compete on a similar level and have like, for example, the Street app is brilliant for that sort of stuff. You know, you can do so much on it. A client's got access to it, a buyer has got access to it, a tenant's got access to it. Purple Bricks had all that, and it just seemed like that was the way it was all going to me. But then other people started building integrations that you could use as a small independent, and you start thinking, oh, actually, we can compete now all of a sudden, and it is more about service.
I think the other thing is, just to jump on that as well, at the mastermind when we were speaking and you did your talk, Heather, it was about we're the only industry that doesn't want people to self-serve, and people want to self-serve. And I think for us as agents, Street kind of enables us to bridge that gap easily with the app.
Yeah, well, it seemed mad to us at the time that as a consumer, your choice was use an online agent and that model and get access to the best tech, or in theory, get access to better estate agents, but zero tech. And it was like, why is that the choice? Why can't we give the best agents the best tech? And yeah, you know, in the world that we live in now, a significant proportion of people want to self-serve. They don't want to pick up the phone and speak to somebody. They want to be able to do something 24/7 from their mobile. So why not allow them to do that if it's the service that they want and it drives efficiency for you, the agent? That is the obvious way forward, in my opinion.
How many people go on Amazon and I think, you know, is it Ian Preston that says it? You know, when you order off Amazon, you don't go, oh, I really wish I could have picked up the phone and rang them and and ordered my dog biscuits, because you just don't. You sit on the sofa, and it's just, you know, bridging the gap between, you know, but there is also equally where you do need to qualify people to a degree, but also equally, if they're in your system and they're pre-qualified, why shouldn't they be able to self-serve? It's just what I think technology is, and I'm sure we'll move on to things like AI later on, but it's bridging the gap and making life easier, like for agents. So, for example, with Street, being able to onboard people with the app, you know, get them to fill in the PIQ digitally, and then the PIQ feeds into the app. So when people are doing viewings, they can see everything. You know, their AML checks, all of that. It's just, you know, it should be there to enable, really. And I think a lot of people were certainly, in my experience, places that I'd worked before I'd set up on my own, very hesitant to change what's always worked. You know, that's the way it's been, so that's the way it always will be. And that's a very dangerous way to think, which is why said agents are now trying to compete on price, you know, doing 0.5%, doing, you know, sell your house for 599, because there's no other way for them in the market, when the agents that have embraced technology and pivoted are the ones that are winning and are getting the high fees and are moving on and tackling the mid to high end of the market.
Yeah, completely agree. I think you need to be able to cater to how any of your demographics want to interact with you. So if you've got a Doris who doesn't have an email, you need to be able to do everything you would do normally without tech. But there is a demographic, and that demographic is growing substantially, that do want to interact with you via tech. And there was a BBC article a few months ago that said that I think it was 90% of people under the age of 30 will not answer the phone to a number that they don't have saved in their phone. So if as an agent you're still relying on phone calls, you're A, going to be massively inefficient because you're going to have to call them and leave messages and do everything else. But B, you're just not going to get through to certain people.
No.
So you're going to have to offer a different way to communicate.
Dave, was it you that was saying the other week about Ryan Serhant and the billionaires, and how the top end of the market. And I certainly see it with some of my clients, and they're not billionaires, but a lot of them are multimillionaires, and they much prefer text. They don't want to pick up the phone and have a 30-minute conversation about their house sale. They're, one guy in
100%.
particular, CEO of a huge company, and his answers are one word, and he'll say, "What do you think?" And I'll say, "I think you should accept it." And they go, "Okay, done." It's.
I think he was just asked about what he'd seen. Sorry, I think Ryan was asked with what he'd seen with billionaires, basically. What was his common theme? And he just said they're all busy, and he learned quickly to get to the point and give them information quickly. And he'd leave long voice notes, or he would be sending long text, and he'd get him be one-word answers back. Yes,
and they appreciate you being concise and to the point. And
yeah.
Isn't that great about operating at the mid to higher end of a market? I just think it's so good for me. I love it because you can be short, you can be concise, to the point.
Because they get it. Yeah,
they get it. It's way easier than the lower end, I think.
But it's just valuing that time, isn't it? That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
I also think when you're dealing with those types of people, typically that in their workday they're going to be back to back. They'll be in meetings. They'll be in everything else. So they're not going to want to answer a call. Whereas if they get a push notification on their phone to accept a viewing request, they can literally do that whilst on a meeting, and it's one button, and then the rest is automated.
I really love the anecdote that you gave at the mastermind about when you were selling your house and moving, and how that process was. I mean, would you fancy sharing that now? We don't have to name names or anything, but
the sort of the enjoyment factor.
Well, that and I think you said it was your husband. What's the stat? X amount of percent of people don't sell through the agent they bought through, and they don't keep in touch.
So when I asked him who should we get around to value the house, I was seeing this as market research. I thought I'm never going to move out of London again. So I appreciate most agents wouldn't want to hear that I got 10 valuations. I know, but I thought I'm never going to hear the pitch from all these London agents again, so I'm going to give it a go. But anyway, before I did that, I said to my husband, who should we get around to value the house? Just because I thought it'd be really interesting to see who he thought. And he said some of the names you'd normally expect. He also said Purple Bricks, and I was like, oh my God. Obviously with two parents as estate agents, so I was a bit like, okay, that's interesting. And then he said Hunters. So I said, oh, right, okay, why Hunters? And he said, well, that's who we bought through, so we should probably get them back round. And I was thinking, we didn't. We bought our house from Winkworth, and in a 5-year period, over that 5 years, because obviously we're in the industry, so these names mean something to us. These brands are recognisable, and we know who they are. But over that 5-year period, for whatever reason, Winkworth, in his mind, had morphed into Hunters.
Yeah.
Probably because they've just got a dark blue logo, I'm not sure. But I thought it was really interesting because one of the features of Spectre is, we call it anniversaries, which automates communication and bespoke reports to your past purchasers on the anniversary of their purchase every year. But through that, because it cross-checks with the land registry, we can see the repeat business percentage of all the agents that use that feature. And the average when somebody sets it up is 13.8%. Well, it was a few years ago when we looked. So that is a remarkably low repeat business rate. And I think it's because, Winkworth, for example, after they sold us, we didn't get any communication from them at all in that 5-year period, which for me is madness because it was central London. We were a youngish couple. It's pretty obvious that we're going to move out of that tiny place pretty soon. Anyway, Hunters, if it was up to my husband, would have got a call asking them to come around and not have a clue what they were
Can I
talking
ask you a
about
question, actually? And sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, go for it.
For those 10 valuations, out of interest, where did you find those 10 agents? Where did you go? What was the process?
So I did some of the big names like Foxtons and Dexters just because I was super intrigued to be on the other side of one of their pitches.
Mm-hmm.
I did the high-end ones because I wanted to see if that was different. So I got Savills and Knight Frank round. I also got some small independents round because I've always had a bit of a theory that a lot of time really good agents from some of the bigger brands will set up on their own, but you still get more personal service. And then I thought I would get Yopa and Purple Bricks round as well to see what they pitched. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, Yopa and Purple Bricks, it very much was a pitch about the technology, which I thought was really interesting. Mm-hmm. But their valuations, I would say, were the worst of all of them. And then I had Dexter's at the top. And then I went with an independent in the end, who were brilliant, who were absolutely brilliant, I have to say.
So just to put you on the spot again, what was your thought process behind instructing them? What was the difference? So because obviously you're at a bit of an advantage. Obviously, you've got estate agency blood. You run a technology company that helps and enables estate agents. Like what was the catalyst for you to choose who you chose, and who was a close second? And also one more question, sorry, just to follow on that. From that experience, what did you learn about estate agents and their pitches?
Oh, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. I went with, well, I'll tell you who it was. It was Location, who were an agent in Stoke Newington.
Yeah.
So a woman called Vicky came over and she pitched. And one of the things that, this was just obviously my experience, but what I found was a lot of the men that pitched to us predominantly spoke to just my husband. Mm-hmm. I'd be lucky to get a little bit of a glance in. Whereas I found that of the 10, there were only 2 women that pitched, one for Dexter's, one for Location, whereas they spoke to both of us. So one of the things I would say to any male agent listening is, household purchasing decisions, 70% of household purchasing decisions are made by women. So don't ignore the woman in the room, because the chances are she's probably going to be the bigger influence in who you instruct. But yeah, just talk to both people would be my number one thing. And then what I liked about what Vicky said was she went into real detail on the strategy of how they would launch the property. So it was very much, what we're going to do is we're not going to push it to the portals. We're going to go out to our database. We're going to push it to blah, 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 blah. We're going to get everybody in on a Saturday. We're going to get them back to back so they see all the interest. We're going to put a big banner outside saying it's like blah, blah, blah. Professional photography. And also she was very firm with the price that she thought it would be, which I thought was a reasonable price. Mm-hmm. And she was like, look, I'm sure the other agents are going to come in up here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and then we're going to push it up with competition. And I just liked the logic of a Saturday, building up momentum, getting all the interest for, I think she said 2 weeks before launch. Yeah. I just liked the strategy of it. And I thought, actually, yeah, that makes sense. And I had confidence that she knew what she was talking about. And the valuation wasn't too low and it wasn't too high.
So, and in terms of like the valuation process, because I know we've all spoken about this together in a room. Did you notice there was a common theme? Like, because when I speak to a lot of potential sellers, seems to be 90% of agents that they see just bring out a best price guide and that's it. Was there any other sort of meat on the bone that I mean, I appreciate this is a little while back.
To be honest, I don't remember. She did bring some stuff out, but that wasn't in any way an influence on why I chose her. It was more the confidence in that she would sell it, and she would do the video, the photography, and build that interest. Yeah, that was what I think sold it for me, was the strategy.
Cool.
I think people.
The one thing actually, just on the price, was Purple Bricks' valuation was way too low.
Oh, really?
And I think what they'd done, they'd come out. Put it this way: if I'd have gone with Purple Bricks' valuation, we sold for 150 grand more than what Purple Bricks valued it at.
Wow.
Which I think is, when people say how much difference does an estate agent really make, I'm like, well, a huge potential difference. If I'd have just got one valuation and gone with them, there's absolutely no way we would have got 150 grand over asking price.
Yeah.
So picking a good agent can make a material difference to what you get. And I will say this all the time, but yeah, what I think is they didn't know the area very well, and they'd taken the average stats for Hackney and what had happened to house prices over that 5-year period and thought, oh, actually, there's not that much difference. So they'd gone in similar to what we bought it, but actually they had in that little microcosm that we lived in. Yeah. And then at the other end of the scale, there was some where I knew what the average price per square foot had achieved in my area, which might be because obviously I did have access to things like Spectre, which most people wouldn't. And where some valuations came in, I was a bit like, well, that would be the record amount, in this area that's ever been sold by quite some distance. And they're like, yeah, well, we've got we know the exact purchaser for this property. And I just thought, you You don't.
No.
But we also need a 25-week sole agency contract as well as a result.
Exactly, yeah. But I can completely see how if you weren't necessarily well informed on stuff like that, you would be sold on, oh gosh, they know the purchaser already.
Well, it's human nature as well, greed, isn't
yeah.
it? Sometimes, a lot of people, they aren't experienced in the market, and then, not necessarily. The thing is, you get an agent through the door, and you trust that they are professional, and you trust that they know what they're doing. And don't get me wrong, as Dave says, valuation is subjective, so there is, room for variance. But sometimes, I've had one recently where I went through the door, and there was a 500k difference, and that's ludicrous, but there's no data to support it. It's sat on the market for probably the best part of a year, and it's not gone anywhere. So,
Yeah.
the market doesn't agree with the price, as you've just said. To get that £1 per square foot in this area, it's more than going to break a record. If a surveyor goes round, you'd have to pick him up off the floor, finish laughing, because there's no way a surveyor's going to let that through. So just taking it from personal to professional, because one of the highlights for a lot of our members, and certainly us, your talk at the Mastermind was about the culture at Street. And I think there's a huge value add there. I know the guys were both keen for you to speak about that today, if you wouldn't mind sharing. We obviously don't want you to go slide by slide, but one thing that stuck with me was the poo in the pool.
He tried actually repeating it
I did.
on a podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And apparently Ian tried to speak to Alex's wife about it, and it just didn't work.
No.
Basically.
Yeah. Ow. There's a poo in the
Shit in a pool.
Right.
That's all. There was a swimming pool, and there was a lot of shit in it.
Yeah.
And that's all. That's all anyone got.
Yeah. What kind of event was this?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could explain it, Heather, that would be really, really useful for us.
So I saw a CEO, I can't remember the business that it was. It must have been like 15 years ago, give a talk. And he was saying that he was asked at the end if he could give one piece of advice, what would it be, to any other business owner. And he said it would be to find the bad apples in your organization and get them out. And then he said, I'm going to give you an example story of how, to bring this to life a bit. And then he told this story and it stuck with me. So he said, imagine you receive an invitation to a pool party through the post. And you get this envelope, you open it, and you're invited to this pool party in LA. And it's all expenses paid for. Your flights are paid for. It's in 6 months' time and all your best mates are going. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. So you hit the gym, you buy yourself a new swimming costume. You get there and everything is perfect. The sun is shining, the drinks are flowing, you are having the best time, the music's blasting out. And you and all of your mates are boiling hot. So you're like, right, okay, let's get in the pool to cool down. So you all head over to the pool. You're about to jump in. What is the one thing that's going to stop you jumping in that pool? So if you see a poo floating, and he said that's the problem. It only takes one poo to stop everybody jumping in, and it's the same in an organisation. And he said the number one job for you as the leader of that organisation is to find the people that are the poos in the pool and fish them out, because otherwise it just stops everyone. It just takes one person in a meeting to be like, oh no, blah blah blah, or start bitching about this or whatever, and it will seep out, and it just stops everybody else feeling positive, acting positively. And I think I think that's true. I think culture is so important, and we all know, every single person listening will know of someone that they've worked with in the past that is that poo in the pool. And you know how toxic they can be to a work environment. And I think sometimes it's very easy to turn a blind eye to somebody who is detracting from a culture or is particularly negative, and you just think, hopefully it'll sort itself out. Well, it won't, and it doesn't. So it's your job to move them on to pastures new.
I also think you don't often realise, do you, until the person has gone? How
100%.
They were.
I honestly think this is one of those things that you just have to learn yourself as a business owner, because, we've had, back in the early days of our business, we had someone, and there were lots of issues, and we kept thinking, okay, he's turned a corner now. Things will change now. Give him benefit of the doubt. And there was every excuse under the sun about sometimes why he wouldn't turn up. And, again, I think we're a bit naive and thought, okay, yeah, that's awful, well, blah, blah, blah. And eventually when we got rid of him, after we got rid of him, everyone was like, thank God, what took you so long?
Yeah.
Why did you believe him when he said da, 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 da? And I just think sometimes you have to go through that yourself and make a bad hire to understand the damage it could do, and you should have acted sooner.
It's a great lesson. I mean, I've certainly been through it. I had somebody in my business that was exactly that, and I had to chop them, and they had to go. And the straw that broke the camel's back was basically made one of the team cry. And I was like, nah. Like, I get that someone can be a little bit sharp and have a little bit of an edge sometimes, and but when you reduce someone to tears, and through just being a knob, that's it, game over.
Yeah.
So card was marked, see you later, and ever since then, what's the phrase? Hole in an arsehole, poo in the pool. It's very similar,
Rather
isn't
a
it?
hole than an arsehole.
I do think that.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think that, JK, though, on that's a valid point, but I also think that sometimes you don't really realise who that person might be in your business, because quite often when you're in the room, when you're in the office, they behave differently to when you're not there. And a lot sometimes the other team members don't want to say anything because they don't want to get anyone into trouble, or they don't want to be the person who puts the hand up.
Yeah,
so it's quite often it's not easy to tell.
One of the things I picked up from here, because there's culture is thrown around. Like, if you listen to business podcasts all the time, and they go, "Oh, your culture, your culture, your culture." But I think you said it, and you put it really well, Heather, at the mastermind, when you said, like, culture is what happens when you're not there, and that is what the culture is, and that really clicked for me. It made a lot because I kind of knew what culture was. But when you try and articulate it to someone else, like I destroyed the poo in the pool the other week, it didn't quite all fit together. So, I mean, maybe to expand a bit more on your culture, because some of the stats, you've got like a 90-odd, late 90s% retention rate at Street. When we went there, from our perspective, we've been there a few times now. And everywhere just feels like a good vibe. Like, shout out to Sai, everyone loves Sai, but he's just brilliant. And everyone you kind of come into contact with is just brilliant. Loves to be there. We saw you interacting with people that work there. We couldn't. We didn't. You almost couldn't tell that. You were the boss in some ways, if that makes sense. And I think that speaks volumes. So it might be quite good to, if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit more on that.
Yeah, I think fundamentally we're a tech company, but there are a lot of parallels with estate agency in that fundamentally we are a people business, as are all of you. So if you don't get your culture right and you aren't able to attract the best people, you're not going to be able to have the best business. And for me, that's fundamental. So me and Tom have been very deliberate about culture from the very early days, because I think culture has got a lot of obvious benefits, but it's got some less obvious benefits as well. So, for example, the obvious ones are, if you're able to attract the best people, then for us, we're able to build better products. We're able to sell it better. So it's just an obvious thing. But obviously, the knock-on from that is if you then need to be able to retain them. And with engineers in particular, engineers are notoriously difficult to retain, and we're really proud of our retention rate. That means that the engineers that we hire stay in the business longer. We don't have to recruit extra people. It takes a good engineer 6 months to get up to speed with the code. That slows down innovation. It has tons of knock-on effects. But there are other things in terms of culture as well. So, for example, I think we have a very... we try and create such a buzzword, and I almost don't want to say it, but like psychological safety, so that people feel safe to share ideas and try new things and build things. And I think that has a direct correlation with how innovative we are as a company, which is one of our USPs, because we know, for example, one of our operating principles is that we move quickly and we innovate, basically, because fundamentally our clients need to rely on us from a tech point of view to always have them at the forefront of innovation. That is what makes us different from all the legacy tech companies out there. So we need to know that our people know how important that is, and that they feel safe to innovate, try new things, push boundaries. So yeah, all of these things I think are just benefits of having the right culture and the right people.
Going back a step, Heather, there as well, talking about a bit of toxic culture as well sometimes. How do you identify it? Because obviously you're I know you're very much involved, and like JK said, then you couldn't actually tell if you didn't know. But how, as a business owner, do you identify and make that change fast without actually being really closely connected to it every single day? How do you manage that?
So it's a really good question. I think the goal with culture is that the culture itself is self-policing. So it's not relying on me and Tom policing it, which I think is what we've achieved now. So what we want is that if somebody does join the business that is not a good cultural fit or a poo in the pool, the team themselves just would not tolerate it. And that happens. So I think we have got very good at managing people out during a probation period if they aren't a good fit for the business. We've got a lot better at that than we ever used to be. But yeah, I think the goal is with culture, as a business grows, you as you said before, James, you can't be in the room all the time. You can't see every interaction between everybody, different teams and clients. It's literally impossible. So you have to trust that your teams themselves know the type of cultural fit that we're looking for. And if somebody isn't, that they have the means and the resources to know how to deal with that, which we've got handbooks and manager handbooks and all of that good stuff. And we also have a set of operating principles that me and Tom defined that are linked to everybody's salary reviews every year. So this is something I feel very passionately about, because I think most businesses do have things like values or operating principles, but they're just wishy-washy bullshit things that like people stick on the wall and ignore. So if you actually want people to, adhere to them or value them, then you need to link it to something that matters to them. And for us, we've done that with salary reviews. So everybody gets graded against the operating principles every year, and the score that they get will directly impact the salary review that they get. Mm-hmm. So obviously it matters to them that they are doing that. So that's one way that we've sort of linked what we're looking for to sort of retaining and rewarding the best people.
Can I just jump in on that as well? I really like, that's another thing I took away and I wrote down was operating principles rather than core values. Just because, and again, you probably explained it better than me, but the way that I took it from what you said was that, values are something that is quite personal from person to person. Whereas...
Yeah. This might just be a me and Tom thing, but I feel like, who are we to tell people what their values should be? But what I think is fair is to say, when you're in this business, this is how we want you to operate. I'm not going to tell you what your core values are, but in the business, this is what we're looking for. And we split that out into two groups of operating principles, who we are and how we work. And that's just within the business. And that's how we've done it. But I think most companies do call them values, to be fair, but it just felt a bit personal for us.
I like that it's different, and it makes a lot of sense. And there's obviously a bit of science behind it for you as well, and clearly your team buy into it with such a high retention rate.
Just on that, before you move on, David, ours are core values, but as we were leaving, Aidan and me said we like operating principles better.
Which also made me laugh, though, because I've been to your office and you've got them stuck up on the wall.
Yeah, we had.
So sweet, to be fair.
What I was going to say was that our first one is family first, and that works really, really well. And we really live by that. And
ours is agents first.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
That's our first one.
So yeah. I think it's a great thing, especially for a smaller company, with family first, because we, the guys all know that if they've got a personal call, they just take it. If they need to go and do something at the kids' school, they just go and do it. They never had to ask me. And I really think that's a key thing within the company that keeps.
Oh God, what does that say about us? That ours is agents. Forget your family. You need to put our clients first.
Yeah,
your family.
God. Yeah, can you imagine? We've had a bereavement in the family. Well.
James Kendall is still waiting for his Spectre email to go through.
Go on. Speak to the agent first, see what they would like you to do.
Sorry, Dave, go on.
You can move them around. No, I was going to move on to a bit of techie. That I know we've not got long left. Thank you, but it was more like sort of moving on to the techie bit. I'm interested to know how you see estate agency evolving now over the next sort of 5 years. You've got your finger on the pulse with everything AI and tech. So I think personally, the next 5 years is going to change a lot in the sense of technology itself and AI, obviously. So yeah, how do you see it? How will it benefit people? What do people need to do to get ready? Because again, something that stuck in my mind when you did your presentation a few weeks ago was, if you switched off to it, then you'll fall way behind. You just need to get on board and accept that it's happening. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Heather?
I think it is happening. I think it's happening really quickly. There's a few things. I think how consumer expectations are changing. I honestly believe in our industry we're 5, maybe even 10 years behind other industries. And I'm talking about B2B industries, so not even B2C. So things like, how we interact. I think obviously all of you guys are on street, so it's different. But if you take the majority of agent or any agent who isn't on street, the only way that they are communicating with their clients is phone calls, emails, maybe WhatsApp. Whereas in pretty much every other B2B industry now, people are doing things through their mobile on an app. So I think that's one area that we, as an industry, we have got to get better at. Like if you were to randomly pick somebody on the street and say, how do you imagine you manage your move? You're selling your house, somebody who's never sold a house before. How do you imagine you interact with your estate agent? How do you imagine you get your information and, manage that? They are not going to be like, email? So I think that mobile and app first communication is going to be huge. I also think people in the UK are getting more and more expensive. So there is a significant proportion of estate agency, when you actually look at how people spend their time on a day-to-day basis, that is very admin heavy, that doesn't actually add value to the client. So I think where we need to go over the next 5 years is that tech needs to do the heavy lifting with those repetitive admin-like tasks to free people up to do the much more value-add stuff that agents should be doing that, in my opinion, tech can't replace. So things like empathy, negotiation, like physical face-to-face stuff that people will want.
Can I just jump in there? Sorry.
Yeah, go.
The reason I laughed when you said that is, so I did a bit of training yesterday with my team on AI. So I've installed Chat GPT on everyone's computer. We've got an account. And I was trying to show them advanced voice mode. And I said, look, you can run through different scenarios with it sometimes, and you can do different things. And so Matt in the office went, oh, what about negotiation? Like what that's like? And I said, well, we'll give it a go. And it failed spectacularly. Like it was hilarious to the point where I said, look, you're going to play the role, act as a really difficult client. I'm trying to get a deal tied up on this house as the agent. I want you to respond to me and be a difficult client, and then reverse the roles. And basically, it went along the lines of, right, we've got this offer, blah 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 blah, and the AI went back and said, yeah, no, I'm not taking that. And then we switched roles. And I was the difficult client. I said, yeah, I'm not taking that. And the AI went, okay, no problem. Have a nice day. and the guys in the office went, yeah, that's brilliant. Amazing. We all had a bit of laugh about it, but that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. I think we're so far off that, that negotiation skills that's what you really want your estate agent to do.
Yeah.
But when we originally built the street, we actually went into various agents and color-coded the time that they spent doing various tasks. And you'd be amazed about how small a proportion of your time is spent doing the highly skilled part of your job. And all the people that you need to sort of employ historically to do all the admin-based stuff that doesn't add value to anyone and is just donkey work, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
That's where tech's going to go. And the agents that don't embrace that are going to need to employ more people per transaction or more people per managed property. The margins are going to be thinner. They won't be able to employ the higher paid people. They won't be able to do that more highly skilled stuff. And over time, they will just not be able to compete. So over the next 5 years, I think we're going to see a lot more mobile first communication. We're going to see tech doing a lot more of the heavy lifting with self-serve and all that sort of stuff. And I think we will see a lot of AI. It's already threaded throughout Street anyway, and Spectre. But we're messing around at the moment, playing with some really cool stuff with AI that is very close to going in. But yeah, it's not going to be doing negotiation. And interestingly, just on that point, James, I actually saw somebody talk about AI, and they had a graph of all the professions that were going to be impacted by AI the most and the least. An estate agency was actually one that was on the lower end of the scale.
Yeah.
Because they were saying that if you think about the way that AI is going, one of the sort of bad actor use cases for it is fraud. And I don't know if you've ever seen the voice cloning that you can now do. It's unbelievable. It's just insane. So actually, when it comes to selling what typically is somebody's biggest asset, you will want to meet that person face to face. You will want to know who you're dealing with. And you're not going to rely on technology to do that. So I think there will always be a human element to estate agency, which is a lot more protected than other industries. Yeah. But if you want to be a good, profitable estate agent, you're going to have to implement tech.
I think agentic AI is going to be one of the big next leaps, isn't it? You know, and I think you had a demo of something you'd seen before. I know what agentic AI is, and we know what that is. But rather than me explain it, would you like to?
Yeah, so agentic AI is what's going to be very big this year, and that's historically, we've got the likes of ChatGPT, which are large language models. Agentic AI is where the AI goes off and does something, basically. So if you take, for example, somebody ringing up outside of office hours and they want to book a valuation, the tech there is literally there. We've already built it in Street for an AI voice agent to answer the phone and say, "Hi, I'm your AI assistant. How can I help you today?" They're then able to take the details from that person, go into Street. Obviously, with Street, you've got the booking engine, so we have graded every available valuation or viewing slot depending on people's availability, location from other appointments, traffic. So we know the most efficient time for the agentic AI to book in that appointment. So it can retrieve that, which is called a RAG model, and then it can actually take an action. So it can book in that valuation. It can then automatically send out the confirmation emails, push notifications on the app, and that inquiry will then go straight into your inquiry centre. So all of that can be done at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, as good as a human being can do it. And that is very, very exciting for scale, efficiency, service. So yeah, that's agentic AI, and I think there's going to be quite a few use cases for that.
It's coming on. It needs to advance, in my opinion. It needs to advance a bit more, because I think I said on the podcast the other week, if you've spoken to Google on the phone before, there is still that. It hasn't quite nailed the voice yet, in my opinion. And there's that small silence as well sometimes where,
even since you last saw it, James, honestly, if we did a demo now, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Well, I thought that, because what James is talking about here is true. I've thought that, and then I saw your demo the other week, Heather, and I thought, oh my God, it's almost
got
there.
A better version, better than that now within Street. So,
well, I heard one recently, as much as a week ago, and I still thought that. And I think, do you know what it is? I think because I knew it was AI, maybe I was listening for it. The tonality of the voice, it wasn't consistent.
We actually did it in. We've not told Pete tonight I've done this, but we actually got his voice from a video, cloned it, used it. It is absolutely insane.
Really?
You just wouldn't know, which is scary, but also super exciting in terms of use cases. But one of the things with AI and the way we operate our AI team, so we have machine learning engineers and AI engineers within the business. And what we say to them is they spend half of their time building their own models within the business that we use for lots of things, like the propensity to sell model within Spectre, where we predict which properties are going to come to the market. That in itself increases your marketing ROI by 340%, and that retrains every week. So that's just getting better and better. But the other half is then we say to them, you can just play with the AI tools that come out across, the world. And if you come across something that you think is good and it's got a use case, just build on that. And that's worked really well for us, because they can go off, play and plug it into Street. And that's really exciting.
My dream is one day that, if the AI engineers are listening to this, that one day that it will plug into the WhatsApp API and it will just deal with inquiries and deal with people on WhatsApp, and because there's businesses out there that are doing it already. Like Direct Line is probably a classic example, really small scale, where we did our car insurance renewal a little while back on WhatsApp, and you put everything in there and it presents you with a couple of it's basically almost chatbot-esque in the beginning when you first start doing it, but then it gets a bit more complicated afterwards. It asks you for your car registration and your name, and I think, like you said, is it RAG or whatever it's called, where it will go into the database and go, right, okay, well that matches with that, what's your password, that self-serving element. I because I've spent I'm a nerd, so I've spent a bit of time trying to put something together with OpenAI, Zapier, and what I used, there was 2 or 3 different things that I tried plugging together, and I basically an Agent Connect, and I started basically building this. I mean, I'm no software engineer, but from what I managed to achieve in probably about 10 hours of playing, you could get it to a point where somebody could send a Rightmove inquiry, and then your AI, whatever you call it, then texts that person on WhatsApp straight away and says, look, hi, Heather, you've inquired about 1 Acacia Road for XYZ. I understand you want to view it. Ask the questions. And then, I didn't get as far as doing that, but then filtering it into the actual inquiry center. So it then registers and qualifies an applicant and puts it straight in from WhatsApp.
So you can do that in Street now.
Well, yeah, because you just at the mastermind, it just come out,
Yeah.
hasn't it?
Wow.
It's funny because it's. I mean, we're doing all this amazing stuff in AI, and agents getting really excited about agentic AI and voice AI to book appointments. And I completely agree with that. But the first step has got to be, you've got to get your foundations right in Street or your CRM. But and that means that if you want an agentic AI to be able to do something, you have to have set it up properly in Street, because the actual first step, in my opinion, is self-serve. If somebody is landing on your website, you should be enabling them to book an evaluation straight there and then on your website. If you're spending money on a website and driving people to your website and you're not allowing them to book an evaluation, what are you doing? Why are you introducing any friction? Don't make them fill out a form. With every field on that form, the drop-off rate is 25%.
Yeah.
So just let them book evaluation. And for me, I feel very passionately about allowing people to book in viewings as well. You've got the technology in Street to set that up on a property-by-property basis, branch basis, whatever you want, and set your own pre-qualification questions to allow them to book in or not. So, I really feel that if you want to get to agentic AI where they're dealing with appointments, the first step is setting up your CRM so you actually can allow that, and then the AI, if you want to go that second step, can go off and actually book appointments in if you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the future, because historically you'd employ 2 or 3 people on a certain wage to sit there in the office and do that. But
JK, also just going back to the start of the culture conversation about the poo in the pool, this tech can prevent us having those issues, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, people are getting so expensive, and people aren't perfect either. You have to manage.
And the government making it harder to employ people, aren't they?
Exactly.
But equally, when you've got the right people, and certainly for me with a smaller team, I feel like we've got the right people now. And I'm so cautious about adding on new people and how that can affect the team. So if you can use tech instead of having to grow the team too much, and that's if it works well, that's amazing, I think, for a business.
I think that's the exact effect that's going to happen with all these changes, is that every business owner is going to be thinking, can tech do this before I employ another person? Can AI do this before I employ another person? Because employing a person is expensive, but also all the legislation that's obviously going to change around, making it much more difficult to manage people out if they aren't a cultural fit, just makes that decision harder to make, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think, Heather, just a quick one from me as well, just looking at the letting side, like property management, I think AI can do a lot of the heavy lifting there, can't it?
Massively. Well, it already is. So on Street, AI is now solving 20% of all maintenance requests that come in. So that's 20% of inquiries that are sorted, finished and closed without a human being ever getting involved. So that's 1 in 5 taken care of. And that, again, is just going to get better and better and better.
Crikey.
Yeah.
If you're managing 500 properties as well, that's a lot of heavy lifting, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's all
It's
the
huge.
paperwork, booking routine inspections, paperwork for renewals, all that sort of stuff. There's loads of administrative
Do you want to know
tasks with that.
a scary part of this? So we released an AI document reader in Street last year that reads safety certificates and all those sorts of things and basically inputs the numbers. And when we launched it, we got it to go back through documents that had already been uploaded, and 7% of certificate details have been entered in wrong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's on like really key documentation. So I think that's another side benefit to AI and tech is that if they are replacing things that are literally, like manual data entry where there's even the smallest scope for error, you can completely eliminate those errors on stuff that actually, with compliance-wise, is really important.
Well, things like that, when you've got like letting agents, a friend of mine had a lettings business and they had an issue with insurance and then that would stuff entered in incorrectly. So that could kind of solve all of that.
Yeah. It's things like expiry dates and everything else. You just want to know that you've got it right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And human beings are great, but with certain things, they're not always going to be 100% perfect.
Right, before you go, one question I'm going to ask you that I asked somebody else. And I'm appreciate I'm kind of putting you on the spot. So you've been on lots of podcasts.
Is this your favourite?
Obviously, yeah.
She said that on all. She said that on all of them. What's a question no one's asked you so far that they should ask you? And what's the answer?
Oh, my God. A question nobody's asked me so far that they should ask me.
We're not going to check, so you could just make it up.
Like business related?
Whatever you like, you choose.
Anything.
Anything that you'd like to put out there in the universe.
What about what's it like having a brother as a co-founder?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Don't think anybody's ever asked me that before.
Good question.
So, yeah, and I would say absolutely brilliant. And no, I actually think that it's one of the reasons why the business has been so successful is because, and I'd be really interested to hear from you guys in terms of how you manage it. But I think what it's enabled us to do is have that psychological safety with each other of complete trust, but also run two separate sides of the business. So Tom does the engineering side and I do the commercial side. And therefore it allows us to have double the spheres of influence, so double the amount of people reporting into co-founders, and also someone to share in the ups and the downs with. Are you all single founders of your businesses, or have you all got business partners?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So I just imagine that's so tough.
I've
I'm not sure I
had,
could
got
do
rid,
it.
and
Oh, really?
yeah, now on my own.
I mean, I say single founder, me and Alex, with 50%. So I have Alex.
I'm going to say, she's going to listen to this later and go, actually, Ian, you can be a single founder if you want.
I suppose it feels different because it's within it's like within your household, isn't it? It's not like it's within one household. So it still feels like one founder, really. You know what I mean?
She is the driving force, and you know it.
Yeah, he's the mouthpiece.
Honestly,
we know the real
I
story.
always say, but I'm the mouth and Alex is the brains.
Yeah, we can believe that.
The thing with what I like about your journey as well, Heather, how it's all come together, it's obvious that you're an estate agency because you've kind of got the engineering side, you've got accountancy background, which is really great for business, obviously. But the fact that you've come from an estate agency background, I think the way it's all molded together, you must have a really well balanced team. I think certainly at the top.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think we've been so lucky. When people say like, "Oh, how do you think you've got to where you've got to?" There's no way I could look at this and say we've been anything other than super lucky. We've got the family background, so we knew the industry. We've got Tom, who's a software engineer. We've got me, who's a chartered accountant. And it's just like the combination of all those three things at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
When people say it's a mixture of luck and opportunity, it's definitely the truth. I mean, luck really in terms of timing of the idea and Tom being able to build it and a mixture of backgrounds has all culminated in something that's worked really, really well.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think it's a good space to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing everything with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always a great listen, Heather, whenever you're on a pod or in your company. It was a really good listen, that, so thank you.
Oh, cheers. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Someone wants a discount.
Double discount.
We don't do discounts.
I'm just
Double
kidding.
discount. There we go.
Right, as always, if you've enjoyed it, share it with a friend, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone.